The house, the hurt, the headache. The big D is never easy, especially in real estate. I have been in situations over the past 15 years that I couldn't even put the ex-spouse's name in an email. I couldn't mention the name in an email. I've had wives calling me, crying. No one wins in real estate except for divorce lawyers, for the most part. And when you're selling an asset, that's very difficult. How could, two adults, husband, wife, whatever, how can they make the process easier when it comes to selling the house?
Well, emotions are a complicated thing.
Oh, they are.
And we run into this a lot as well. And one of the discussions that we have early on with people is from a real estate lawyer point of view is it's a joint retainer. So we represent both of you. So we can't make a side deal with somebody here and not tell the other person. So everything you tell me here goes to this person and vice versa. Or you can choose to have two separate lawyers. A lot of times for us, there's family lawyers involved as well, and we're communicating through them. So
on that note, so if I have a divorce, each of us have a divorce lawyer, right? Should the divorce lawyers be the ones who are involved in the real estate transaction, or should a couple always keep your divorce lawyers because that's what they're good at, but have your real estate lawyer?
Well, it depends.
Okay.
A lot of divorce lawyers don't do real estate law. Yep. So there's a lot of divorce lawyers that we work back and forth. They do the divorce piece and I do the real estate piece. If a lot of people I don't think would be comfortable having them do the real estate piece because it's a joint retainer type situation and you're not going to want your ex's lawyer doing the work because you're not going to feel, and they may feel like they have a conflict with that. So a lot of times you're going to see that goes out to a real estate lawyer and we just kind of communicate, and that can make it a lot easier. Yeah. If there's other lawyers involved, if you're trying to do stuff on your own, that can make things a lot harder. So ideally, you've got some cooler heads prevailing, and you've got some people that are listening to the legal advice that other people are giving them. But as for making it easier, if you don't have that, and you don't already have an agreement in place, which is the easiest thing that you can do. I don't know what to tell you on that one because I've had some doozies. Yeah,
but you don't need two real estate lawyers because you already have two
unless
legal.
They want that.
Yeah.
So, and sometimes people will want that because they're really not comfortable, but I've only had that once or twice. Most times they're comfortable, and what we'll do is we'll just blind copy because we've had times when they're not allowed to know each other's email addresses.
Yeah, I've had that.
No contact orders, where you have to make sure that they're not in the building at the same time, and we can do separate meetings, and that's fine. We just need people to tell us this, but what they need to understand is unless we've got an agreement on paper somewhere or a court order, you both need to agree on everything. And that's where things can get kind of sticky on, say, a closing day. So maybe somebody, and this happens a fair bit, one spouse is responsible for getting everything out of the property, topping up the oil tank, all this kind of stuff. Well, they don't do it. Or there's an issue and the buyer raises a problem, and then you need to agree on things like credits or adjustments or holdbacks. I was like, it's great that you're okay giving a $500 credit, but your ex also has to agree. Like, you both can't, unless you just want to pay it out of yours and not theirs. So that can make kind of for a dicey closing day if people really aren't agreeing. And that's a conversation we'll have when we're meeting people like that ahead of time. We'd be like, if something goes sideways, what are you comfortable with? Are you comfortable with them making a decision or making a decision up to a certain amount? Do you both need to agree? Most times they're going to say, look, we both need to agree unless they want to take it out of their share.
Yeah.
Again, ideally, we've got some sort of agreement ahead of time. And really with those ones, you really want to make sure that it's the property is in pristine shape for closing day, because you don't want to be on top of everything else trying to negotiate between two people that don't like each other anymore.
And you can't get them both on the phone at the same
Can't get
time.
them both on the phone at the same time. Sometimes you can't. Someone's just completely ghosted and they're just totally checked out, or they're just saying, well, that's their problem, and the other person doesn't agree that it's their problem. So, in a perfect world with those, get the house in the best shape you can get it. Don't have a lot of conditions that they come back and they do X, Y, and Z, just do price reductions. At the beginning, if the inspection things, because you don't want, the ex-wife responsible for replacing the hot water tank, and then she just gets mad and doesn't do it. And then, because we've seen it all with that kind of stuff. And sometimes people start off in a great space, and then they find out about other things along the line, and they get a lot less agreeable by the time closing day comes. And a lot of times with that, there's no agreement on where funds go, and we just say, that's great, we'll transfer it to one of the family lawyers and they'll hold it.
Yep. How about, let's say you have a couple divorced and she's moved out, and now the husband is there trying to, or whomever is left back in the house, and it got to be painted, it needs some TLC on the house, so he's getting it done. So keep your receipts. Is that a good thing to do? Like if Joey kept his receipts, the stuff that he was doing in the house while she's moved out, and he's trying to get the house ready, does he get reimbursed potentially?
If they agree. The ex might say, I didn't want any of that done. I didn't agree to that. I just wanted to sell it as is. So you want to be careful with that. Before you start telling someone that they're going to be able to get the money back, because we have that a lot, where someone will come in with a bunch of receipts, and that's exactly what the ex-spouse says, is you didn't need to do that, it would have sold anyway. And so my neighbor said that they would have bought it. Because really, you need to get them to agree on everything. You need to get them even to agree to list, with you, and the price and the reductions and all that kind of stuff.
So would both parties, but it's so difficult to get anybody to agree to, if they are getting ready to list a house, to have a side agreement with you, both parties have, that they agree to that if it takes $10,000 to, if they need to get the house up to snuff, I don't know, not the right word to use, but you know what I mean, like to get the house presentable to sell, that upfront, that if it's up to $10,000 and the one party has the receipts, we can, but you would do that in the beginning.
The more you can get people to agree on ahead of time, the better. So if you think you can get them to agree to something like that, perfect, all day. And they may have something in their separation agreement if they're already that far down the road that says that as well. And sometimes you'll see the court orders where they'll say, this partner is entitled to sell it at market value. Like sometimes, if they really haven't agreed and you get all the way to, and you're going through a court order, it'll lay all that out. But if you're not at that stage where it's not all laid out, absolutely, if you think you can get them to agree to something like that, have them whip something together, or the lawyer can throw something together, rather than fighting about it afterward.
What are some other things that you think that, let's say, as a listing agent, or helping a couple navigate through that process, just of real estate, I do like that. Like everything up front is better.
Yeah.
Any other types of scenarios that you think that we could do to ease the pressure from both parties? It's...
Well, I don't know. And we've had times where they've picked somebody kind of in the middle to communicate. That gets dicier for us. We need to get some consents and that sort of thing. But from a realtor point of view, maybe that would be an option. Like everything goes through the daughter, who's, their 25-year-old daughter or something, for example, and then she can kind of figure it out. But, really the first question I would be asking is, do you already have an agreement in place about what's going to happen with this house? Because that's the first thing the real estate lawyer is going to ask.
Yeah.
Because I'm not holding funds indefinitely in trust.
No.
We've got to figure out where the money's going. And like I said, maybe it's just going to another family lawyer, that's fine. But I would be asking that, like, do you have an agreement about this on paper already? Have you agreed how this is going to look? Like, even when you're booking showings, do you need consent of both of you? Are you both living here? If it's just me living there, are you okay with me consenting to all the showings? Like, or, do you also need my ex's consent to that. Like really anything that you would normally do, you're going to be like, do I need both of you to agree on this, or can I just do it by talking to pick one of you? You want to be careful. You don't want to pick, because then they'll feel like you're aligned with that person.
Yes.
You want to be like, I want you to agree who's going to be the point person for this. Or if you do want to both, maybe you just want to be copied, but Danielle can make the decision, for example.
I think, if I look back at some couples that I've had over the years, I had one gentleman who would never pick up the phone to talk to me. It was in text. And in my own head, I'm like, dude, you're not divorcing me, you're divorcing her. I'm here as Switzerland for you both to help sell the home. You don't need to be against your realtor.
Yeah.
Like, there's no favorites. I just want to sell your home as fast as possible for the most amount of market value that I can. So I just think that we've all had shitty breakups, and I've seen a lot of bad divorces, but this is a part of the process that everybody's trying to put behind them. And I think it's so important for the couple. You don't have to work together, but work together with me, your agent.
Yeah.
And that's where I find it extremely difficult. Like, I need to talk to you. Like,
and I think a lot of that's a trust thing, because they're coming from a position where they've lost trust in their partner. So I think as soon as they see somebody aligned in any way in their mind, so if the partner was the one that said, oh, let's choose Sandra Pike, or if you know them from somewhere, I think they start off in a position of distrust because they don't trust their partner anymore. And I think that's really what you got to do, is just try to establish that trust. And that's what I find as well, is it's the distrust, like, oh, what are you saying to her? And I say the same thing. I'm like, you're both getting the exact same communication, the exact same service. We all want the same thing. We want to close this. Frankly, I don't care who gets the money as long as we have an agreement. It doesn't matter to me at the end of the day. But I think what you need to remember is people are, they're emotional, and that's understandable. And they're coming from like a position. Typically, if there's bad blood like that, there's some distrust from something. So they've got that distrust with everybody, and you really got to try to establish that and explain, look, this is exactly how it's going to work. What would make you comfortable with me? Knowing that, you don't necessarily trust that I'm representing the both of you. Like, what would make you more comfortable?
Yeah.
And sometimes people just aren't. They're just uncomfortable with the whole process, and it is what it is. And all you can do is try to get in writing, always in writing, because emotional people are unpredictable. Get in writing how they want it to look. And if they can't agree, then it might not be the listing for you. And sometimes we say, this isn't the client for us because we just can't get you where we need to be. And it's going to be painful and possibly litigious for me if I keep doing this because you don't trust me.
Yeah, no, and a fair points for sure. Is it, when you're talking about showings, and is it good for, before you start the process, okay, again, let's put it off in writing. Danielle, you are going to approve all the showings. Yeah. Danielle, you're going to have the house prepared to the way we always had it for when showings are, that's how we want the house to be shown. Does that make sense? Or is that just putting way too much stress on?
I think it's a good idea. I think that's going to create less stress for them because they know what's going to happen with the process. In particular, if you've got to be aware sometimes, sometimes it's not just a distrust. Sometimes there's other things like, you've got non-contact orders because somebody's abusive. You get into it. You really got to watch that stuff, right? Yeah. You want to make sure that you're watching that power imbalance there. But, you might get somebody that's trying to manipulate a situation there. So it's great if you can get that in writing, because we had a time when somebody was deliberately approving showings when they knew that their spouse who worked back shift was home trying to sleep, for example. And they knew they would be home and they would say that they wouldn't be. So, sometimes people are terrible because you're seeing them at one of the worst times.
I know, it's hard.
Their life.
It's hard not to be. You're very empathetic to a situation.
Yeah. Well, sometimes one person's a jerk and one person's not. And it's hard in those situations because, you don't, at the end of the day, you're representing both. I'm representing you whether I like you or not. I don't need to like you to be your lawyer or your realtor. I just need to do the best job for you and do what I'm paid to do. And I think you got to be aware of the optics of that sometimes too, right?
100%.
Especially if you already got a pre-existing relationship with one of the two parties.
Thankfully, I've never had that.
Yeah.
I've come in, blind to a lot of couples, but even like, let's say a regular seller, to get caught up over $1,000, because at the end of the day, they're going to pay their lawyer $400, $500 an hour when it's going to cost like this. If there's a grievance of $1,000, we're just going to let it go through. Like, would that be a good thing to have up front?
If you could get people to agree to something like that so that you could just make the decision on closing day. Like sometimes a buyer is unreasonable.
Well, yes, we know that.
Some people just have unreasonable standards. And I have no problem saying that to my buyer, which is what you're asking for is not reasonable, so you're not going to get it. But I can ask for something reasonable. I'm not going to fight all day over something that doesn't exist or that's not going to happen. So, like you would want to be careful with that because you don't just want to say to your seller, like anytime they raise anything, we can throw $1,000 at it because we're not going to be comfortable with that.
Well, I'm not going to do that.
I know you're not going to do that. I know you're not going to do that. But, I think a big part of being a realtor and a real estate lawyer is managing people's expectations. And as a seller, like you need to expect that people are spending a lot of money. This is a big deal for people. They're buying your house. Like you want this to look the way you would want it to look when you moved in.
And I say that, yeah.
Be respectful of your buyer. And for the buyer, it's different if you're buying new versus used. And sometimes I'll say to people, you are not buying a new home. There's going to be imperfections in it. If they were already there before, because sometimes people will call me and they'll raise all these issues. I'm like, well, was that already in your inspection report? And they'll look and they'll go, yeah. I'm like, well, that already existed. Like we're looking for new problems. So I think with something like that, like I would have the conversation with somebody. Maybe if they were divorcing, I would want something like that in writing so that you're not trying, or, spouse A that lives there is entitled to make a decision up to $1,000, for example, so that you're not trying to involve both parties.
Yeah. Would it be good for a divorcing couple to have two realtors?
If the two realtors could get along, if they could work, maybe, I don't know. I could see that working well, and I could see that working really bad, depending on who the two realtors were.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that might be something that you could talk, if they really weren't comfortable with it, that could probably be something that you could talk about and make sure that everybody's aligned on it.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, it's not my journey or experience, it's their journey and experience. And it is about, I like to use the word safe. And it's about each party, I think, feeling safe. And, maybe that's the solution is, let's get, listing agents would probably hate that I'm saying that.
Yeah.
But it does get emotional, it does get litigious. But if there are, if I have Brenda over at Keller and I'm on this side, well, I get along really well. But, if he doesn't want to talk to me, he likes Brenda, so he's going to talk to her.
Yeah.
And then we could just get it done together.
Yeah. Or you could also involve the lawyer when you get into that.
Yeah.
So if somebody won't talk to you because they're not comfortable, then you can talk through the lawyer as well. Like that's another option that might upset some lawyers when I say that. And, people, that's beyond what the real estate law is typically flat rate. So when we get into all this other stuff, then it does cost more money when you're taking up more of someone's time. What if it's something minor and you just want me to pick up the phone? No problem. I have no problem doing that. Most lawyers would have no problem doing that.
Yep. I just don't want that couple to be more stressed than what they already are, because it's, again, divorce and death are nasty.
They are. Like nobody's going to be happy coming out of a divorce because, you're always going to end up with less than what you had before.
Yeah.
So there's no win in that. So nobody ever feels like they win. Nobody's ever happy with it. It's not like when you're doing a sale when everybody's staying together and they're like, yeah, I have money. It's, oh, I have half of what I had before. I didn't want to sell that house.
Yeah.
So you just got to remember that, it's going to be a different experience. It's not going to be the same nice, happy experience that you have. And you just got to massage it a little bit and work with it and see what people are comfortable with.
Yeah. No, I
but
agree.
it's those are hard files and they're sad files. You don't want to have a client that's upset. Nobody wants that.
It's hard. It's breaking. And then, then I could, I just think about the situations that I've been in, and, you have one party who's more upset than the other because,
Yeah.
they're the ones that the dirt was done to, we'll say.
Oh,
and you want to be
together and they'll sign together and one person's crying, and I'm a sympathy crier. I don't do well with people crying.
I am too.
Oh man, those are tough. And they don't even tell me they're separating sometimes, and you come in and they're upset. I'm like, oh no, I wish I knew this. I wouldn't have put you in the same room together. But they want to do it together because they still have that trust. But oh, you feel so terrible.
And that could be the same thing if it was a probate and there's all these executors on. Maybe 2 agents is what it takes to get through.
Yeah, you just, at the end of the day, you want people to feel like they're protected, and you're right, and that they're safe. And protect is always the word that I use, which is kind of the same thing, really.
Yeah.
So you want to feel like you're protected, your interests are protected,
Yeah.
and that nobody's favoring somebody else in the transaction.
I really appreciate conversations like this because it does give me the opportunity to reflect on how should I be adjusting what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And I like having the other realtor. Yeah. Well, thank you once again.